Everybody, it's Tony George along with Sean Salisbury, host of the Sean Salisbury Show on iHeartRadio, ex-NFL quarterback, and just an extraordinary human being. We're glad Sean's with us here today. And Sean, we're going to talk about the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick's crew, a 5-11 year last year, an unusual year. We're talking about the season win totals. And let me ask you this. Was last year a fluke? Or is Buffalo the new superpower in the AFC East now, and everybody else is playing catch up?
The latter. Buffalo's the superpower in the East, but the Miami Dolphins seem to be getting better if Tua elevates to the 5th pick in the draft and plays well. I honestly think the New England Patriots, as long as you have Belichick, they get guys back from COVID protocol. They appear to have drafted well. The rookie's going to eventually play at quarterback, Mac Jones. We will not go through this year without Mac Jones starting. Hell, Bill hasn't named a starting quarterback. He may start from the beginning if they don't. Like I always say, Tony, well, what if you ruin a guy's confidence? If I'm going to ruin a guy's confidence, if I drafted him in the first round, I'm worried about Mac Jones or Zach Wilson or Trey Lance making early mistakes and not being able to handle adversity, then I shouldn't have drafted their ass in the first place. So
right.
We're at a different time, man. We don't have the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers luxury of Hall of Famer in front, wait 3 years or 2 years, right? Or 4 years. This is, if the starter doesn't perform, Justin Fields is taking Dalton's job. If Cam Newton doesn't, I always say this, if the veteran's playing like the young guy, the rookie, play the rookie. Let him get it, and especially when you're growing, because you might be shocked at how good these guys are, and we've seen it. Now, some are overwhelmed, and I'll be honest with you. If they were overwhelmed as a rookie and don't learn from it and are that gun shy, they may be overwhelmed as a 5-year veteran. We've seen that too, right, Tony? You have the Peyton Mannings. Elway got booed. Manning threw 28 picks. We can go through guy after guy.
Troy
didn't
Aikman.
have a Dan Marino rookie. What's that?
Troy Aikman.
Oh,
Troy
Aikman was like 1-10 or 1-11 to start. You're exactly right. His career. And so, Tony, I am Buffalo is, and they've got a highly paid superstar quarterback. But the New England Patriots, I'm telling you, you don't ever. The coach is pretty good. Just in case people didn't notice, for them is to get back with the consistency at quarterback, and get all their guys back. They like to win on defense, and they're going to have to do more of that and run the ball and try to do everything they can. The Brady thing was Brady, and Mac Jones ain't Brady yet, neither is Cam Newton. But I think they're hoping that his ability to throw people open at some point, whether it's game 1, game 5, game 9, that they think they got their quarterback of the future. You know how Belichick and Saban are. They're tight. So I imagine Nick had endorsed Mac Jones and said he's a quick study and processes information. Cam's going to have to fight him off. But the powerhouse is Buffalo as long as that scouting department continues to do what they do. And you know what's interesting? If you get a chance one time, go look at what Brian Dable, and I'll send it to you, how he addressed his team. Basically, Tony, just a quick overview. He addressed his offensive team. Remember, Dable went for interviews and didn't get a head coaching job, right? They got Leslie Frazier, I believe, is still there as defense coordinator, and Sean McDermott. He went into his offensive meeting room and he said, okay, everybody in here who's a coach that's never been, they're all he said, everybody stand up. If you're a coach and you've been fired before, sit down. Every coach sat down. If you're a former first round, if you were drafted in the first round, sit down. If you weren't drafted in the first round, sit down. Or you've been cut and or traded. Every player sat down except Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And even Mitch Trubisky, who's now the backup, because Trubisky, although didn't get cut, they didn't do his contract. So he, in essence, got cut, right? And then he said, hey, Josh, this is in the offensive room. He goes, how many scholarship offers you get coming out of high school? He said, I can get any. He ended up going to Wyoming because he didn't have a late ad and went there. He sat down. Everybody in the room sitting down. And Brian Dable's message was, remember where you came from. This is an offense that has one first rounder and nobody recruited him. My point is, look how they develop their players there.
Yeah.
They're doing a hell of a job of it. So they are the king right now, but you ain't the king until you put a ring on your finger. But they're the team people are chasing. trust me, the New England Patriots aren't that far behind, and it starts at
Right.
the quarterback position and getting their guys back from the COVID from last year.
Yeah, a couple of things. They had one arm tied behind their back for a couple of reasons in 2020. Why they went 5-11. A lot of their key players opted out for COVID. Now, it's always, the story. And Sean, you played in the NFL and up in Canada and won a Grey Cup, and you played at USC. And the motto is when someone's down, it's next man up. Well, unfortunately, the next man up in depth wasn't that good for them last year. And on top of that, you had the exodus of Tom Brady. And Tom Brady was involved with 20 straight winning seasons, 17 division titles, and 6 Super Bowls. And to replace him with an entirely different style of athlete in Cam Newton, minus some key players, was a difficult task. It would have been a difficult task for Vince Lombardi or Newt Rockne. It's one of those where you're going to have a down year. I don't think they're down and out. It's interesting because the Bills are minus 150 to win the division. The Dolphins are plus 325, and the Patriots are plus 350. And I will tell you, defense needs to keep them in the games. I think they're going to be a lot stronger on defense this year. The total's 9.5 with them. Remember, folks, we have a 17-game season. I think they can get to 10 wins. I think they're going to split with Buffalo. I think you will see Jones at quarterback at some point in time because, quite frankly, he's got a better arm than Cam Newton. And Cam Newton's one of those guys who goes 22 for 27 for 230 and 3 touchdowns next week. 1 week, and the next week he's 9 for 20 with 3 picks and a fumble, and you got to pull him out of the game. That happens again this year. Yeah. If that happens again this year, Sean, you're going to see Jones. He'll stay in there permanently. The one thing about it, curious to know, we've done a season win total on Miami, you and I. We've talked about our concerns at the quarterback situation there. Here's the rub. Week 1, the Patriots open up at home against the Dolphins -2. That's going to be an interesting game, Sean.
It is. And in that environment, hungry, coming back, Belichick, the coach, with one of his pupils in Brian Flores, who is doing some really good things in Miami.
Yep.
New England's going to win that game at home. They're tough they are tough to beat in their building, even without, I know last year was the aberration. This is a tough place to play. I like them. And I look at the schedule from Miami, they go to the Jets. They actually could start 2-0, Tony, in defense of your 10-win thing. And here, to me, this is going to be the game that I'm still trying to decipher as we sit here, game 3, because I look through the schedule and I say, okay, for me, 9 wins. And then where's the one win that gets me over the 9.5 or keeps me at 9? Is it game 3 with New Orleans? No Michael Thomas. Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill? Still trying to decide. How's Sean Payton going to deal with a guy who's not nearly as accurate and can be maddening too by throwing the ball to the other team in Jameis Winston? If they beat New Orleans, now I know this is a futures and we're talking about it, I think they're winning 10 games and going to be 10-7. I do. And because then they got Tampa, which will be rough. That'll be a fun game. I can't wait to see that one. And then the Texans, which they'll win, but it's in Houston. They got Dallas at home. They got the Jets at home. Then they're the Chargers on the road. Then Carolina on the road. It says there's a couple teams like, how's Atlanta going to be, right, Tony? Their defense, but they can score. How's New Orleans going to be without Thomas and the development of Kamara? But can you count on him to load up and do it all? Will Jameis throw it to the other team? My gut says they're going to win 9 games, and it's going to come down to one or the other battling for a type of a wild card in the 17-game schedule. I initially got on this show saying no. I'm going to say 9 wins, that they're not going to get to 10. But then as I continue to look down and say there's some question marks, I don't know how Darnold's going to play. That should be a win, right? Houston should be a win, and depends on Dallas's defense. You get them at home. I'm going to give Belichick the benefit of the doubt. But, Tony, I don't know how comfortable I am with this. But if they show me something and I see them beat New Orleans, which means they could very easily start out 3-0, they will go on and win 10 games. Because what Belichick doesn't do, and some coaches do, he does not cost you games. He may win you a couple with his decisions.
Yeah.
He's not going to be unprepared and get you beat. Somewhere along here, some coach is going to mismanage a clock, and some quarterback's going to throw it to the wrong team. This is a difficult one for me, very difficult, but I'm going to take the over because the New Orleans game I'm pointing to and say they beat them, then I got a pretty good idea because I'm a little – that's that one that takes me from 9 to 10. I'll take the over 10-7, battling for a playoff spot and hoping they get a little help.
I agree, and I agree for a couple reasons. And you mentioned it, coaching. You don't think Bill Belichick does not take to heart all the criticism he heard last year that he could never have won without Tom Brady. So Brady leaves, goes and wins the Super Bowl, and I've got a 5-win team. His resolve to right that ship is going to be as strong as he's ever had in his coaching career this year. And on the other side of the coin, if you were to bring on Jones at quarterback at some point in time in the season, there is no better offensive coordinator out there than Josh McDaniels to break in a young guy like that and get him familiar with the system and build the game plan around him, Sean. And you know this, Sean, you came in for injured quarterbacks the next week in the NFL in your career, and they'll build a game plan around you till you get comfortable in the pocket and with the play calling and, you know, the speed of the game and all the different things that go on. And I think those two coaches alone are going to help them get to 10 wins this year.
Yeah, and Tony, you make a great point. And backtracking a little bit, you talked about Cam Newton. Listen, we know injuries have beat, and the hits he's taken have beat Cam down some, right? Physically, he's not the same guy. Still a big, you know, and at this point in time, this is where you start to, in your career, trust me, with starters and backups, you get to the point where you say, okay, physically I may not be as good, so now I got to find other ways to beat you. Drew Brees with accuracy, you know, or great players around you, all those things that come into play at such a difficult position to sustain greatness. Listen, when Cam was the MVP of the league, he was about as unstoppable a dude as there was on the planet. He did everything. You couldn't stop him running. And now in New England. So do I believe that Cam can – you hit it. He'll go 22-25 one week, and the next week he'll leave you scratching your head like, how'd you miss that shallow crosser 4 times in a game? And Bill, the inconsistency will drive Bill crazy, right? But Cam, and understanding it, he should know it. He's been in the offense, but don't miss. I guarantee you, Mac Jones is a quick study. It's going to be competitive, and I don't think you can have a long leash with Cam, whether it's the preseason one game, because we may be at the point where Cam Newton, if he can't, and when's the last time he played a full season? I don't remember. Maybe it's sooner than later. But it seems that every game will be tough. Mac Jones will see the field. But if he sees it from the start, Tony, a couple things to keep an eye on. One is watch how urgent and when he throws to windows with his accuracy. My favorite thing about Mac Jones was the anticipation of where to throw it and how to get through his progressions. Now, Cam can, and he should at this level, but not with the accuracy and the inconsistent accuracy. Cam lives around 58, 59, 6. He's had a couple 62, 63. But that's been later in his career. But he doesn't live in the 68s or 65s up in that range. And consider Mac Jones will. I'm going to tell you 2 things. One is don't be surprised if Mac Jones starts early if he ends up being the offensive rookie of the year at court. I'm just keep an eye on that. I'm not saying he will, but he could if he starts 14 games. He's got that kind of ability. Now, he doesn't have the same guys at Alabama that he has in New England, but they're still pretty good. And wide receivers were better in Alabama. I'll promise you that. But the anticipation. And you made the point about Josh McDaniels. While coaches have to adjust to players, who's closer to Tom Brady in the way they play football? Cam Newton or Mac Jones? Mac Jones doesn't move very well, can move a little bit, but he's going to live from the pocket, make urgent, quick decisions. You keep an eye on that, and if they do that, and Mac Jones, I'll tell you this. If you told me right now, Sean, for consistency and level of winning, and you said, you got 17 games to play, Mac Jones or Cam Newton, and at the end of the year, who's going to win more games considering the offense they play? I'm not so sure that Mac Jones wouldn't be the better choice right now.
I agree with you, and I think they'll go back to what they were doing with Brady the second they get Jones in there, and his intermediate passes are very sharp. And I think he's
Yes.
going to be a very good player. I'm not telling you you played quarterback. I didn't. Oh, I did in high school, but I did at the NFL. But I think this is a tentative over 9.5, folks. Some things need to fall into place, but I can't go under. And I think Belichick proves his worth this year as a head coach. Catch me over at DocSports.com. Catch Sean on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered. And of course, go over, subscribe to one of the best unfiltered, raw, tell it like it is talk shows in America over there, the Sean Salisbury Show at iHeartRadio. Thanks for tuning in.